So let's start with a high-level overview. What is probate? And probate is a legal process that involves the execution of a will, or if there is no will, the administration of a deceased person's estate. And key tasks include securing assets, liquidating assets, settling debts, and distributing the remaining assets to the rightful heirs or beneficiaries. All right, let's go on to the appointment phase. In the appointment phase, you're going to file your probate case with the courts. You are going to submit the will to the court, and the court will appoint most likely you as the personal representative, or in some states it's called administrator or executor. So this is something that you should do as quickly as possible. There is no time limit. I don't have a time limit and say you should do this within a week or 2 weeks. You should do this as soon as possible. The reason why, we talked earlier about power of attorney ending when a person dies. When you get these letters from the court, letters of administration or letters testamentary, depending on what your state calls them. When you get the letters from the court, that is essentially the court giving you that power of attorney so that you can start to conduct business on behalf of the estate. That is what you need in order to negotiate the mortgage payment with the banks. That is what you need to go to the banks and start talking about closing accounts and transferring funds. Those papers are just absolutely critical. So I encourage families to file as soon as possible, because there's no telling how long you're going to have to wait before you get your hearing, or how long it's going to be until the court issues the papers. Sometimes they issue them immediately if it's an informal case. Other times it could take months before you get a hearing, and then a couple more weeks to get them in the mail. So file as soon as you possibly can, because it could take a while before the court issues papers and appoints you as personal representative, and those are critical. Next, during this phase, we want to start cleaning out the home. And for step 12, what I recommend is that you contact a probate real estate agent before you start cleaning out the home. In fact, I recommend you do this right away, and not necessarily because you want to list the house with the agent, but because you want to come up with some strategies to help you complete the rest of the probate process with less stress. And that knowledgeable agent is going to help you decide if you should take a cash offer and get you the best cash buyers, if you should go with an iBuyer, or if you should put the house on the market. They're going to talk to you about all of those things. Notice here I said someone with probate experience. The reason why I don't recommend, even if you're going to hire a traditional agent, I don't recommend you start out by talking to the traditional agent, because the advice they are going to give you is clean up the house, make the repairs you need, and then we'll list it. That might be the worst strategy for you. That might cause the most liability for your estate. It might be unreasonable, right? You really want to talk to a real estate agent who understands the probate process and can assess your situation and give you the best options and let you know why they're the best options. Traditional agent should not be in the conversation at this point. That's my bias. A lot of people will bring in a traditional agent at this point and everything will go just fine. Others will bring in a traditional agent and they'll have all kinds of problems and they won't understand why. And then they start running up bills with the attorney because the traditional agent's talking to the attorney when they should be just taking care of business. It can get really expensive really fast. So start with someone who knows probate, assess the situation, and then decide what you want to do, even if you decide to go with a traditional agent. Number 13, determine approach. I already talked about that. Some of the approaches that are going to come up. Number one, cash buyer. As soon as you file with the court and they issue your letters, your name is on the public records, and cash buyers are going to start sending you postcards like crazy. You won't believe, and they're all going to say the same thing. Some of you have probably already seen them. My name is so-and-so. I buy houses. I can close in as little as 7 days, all cash, no clean out, no realtor fees. Sounds great. Okay. And in some cases it is great. There are a lot of cases where it isn't. It all depends on your situation. And we'll talk more about that. But the cash buyer is going to offer you approximately 60 to 70% of the after repair value of the home. So if you go out on a website like Zillow or use one of mine, HomeBot is really good, which I provide for free. And let me know. I'll send you a link. If you look at the value on one of those tools like HomeBot, then just figure 60 to 70% of that amount is going to be what the cash buyers are going to offer you. And you can spend a lot of time. You could call 10 different cash buyers. They're all going to come in at that 60 to 70% fee. And then every once in a while, you'll find one that'll come in higher. And it turns out that they're a wholesaler with no intention of buying your house. They just want to get it under contract and try to sell the contract. That's a nightmare. I'll do a whole separate video on that. At this time, just know that your cash buyers are going to be about 60 to 70% of your after repair value. iBuyers come in a little bit higher. They're typically 70 to 80% higher of your cash buyer, but they're a lot more picky about what they buy. They have what's called a buy box. They want the house to be in a certain condition. And if the house is not in that condition, they won't buy the house. They will also make initial offers that are higher than what they're really going to pay. So they'll start out with an offer that might be closer to 90% of the after repair value. And then when they do their inspection, they'll start to lower it down. Even though they're not asking you to make the repairs, they're deducting for the repairs they have to make. And so they're still a little bit higher than a cash buyer, but only if your house qualifies. And you can spend a lot of time going through process with them to find out if your house qualifies. Next would be listing as is. This is in red because this is what I typically recommend in probate cases, not just because we net the highest amount, but also because it provides a lot of liability protection for you and for the estate. We use a lot of tools and waivers and language in the forms here that attorneys recommend and that attorneys love. And it'll just save you time. And I'll do another video. I will show you how you can net more in a probate case by listing as is. One of the other things I like to do for my sellers and families I work with is I like to bring in the offers from the legitimate cash buyers. I'd like to bring in at least 3 offers, maybe an iBuyer if I know that the house is going to meet the buy box. Then we take a look at those offers. Then we list as is to see if we can beat those. And almost every time we can beat those. Or maybe we put a time box around it. We say we're only going to put the house on the market for 2 weeks to try to beat these cash offers. And if we don't beat the cash offers within 2 weeks, then we're going to go with the cash buyer. So I use these things together to help families have more options and make sure that they're getting the most for their home. This is not something that every agent will do. Also note that if you decide you want to do this yourself because you want to save on fees, you start calling the cash buyers. You have to go through a huge list to find out which ones are legitimate. You have to spend time having them come over to look at the house. And same thing, if you go with an iBuyer, you could invest weeks into the process. If you work with an agent who can lay out these options for you up front, for example, I just worked with a person the other day who was trying to decide if he wanted to go with a cash buyer or if he wanted to list as is. Now, in his case, when we looked at the cash offers, I steered him towards the legitimate buyers. There are some in my market who I say are not legitimate because they have no intention of buying the house. They just want to get it under contract. I know who they are. I meet with them once a month. They're a good agent knows who the buyers are in the market that can follow through and who can't. So that's where someone in your market who understands probate and probate process and who the cash buyers are that operate in that space can really save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of headaches, because when things go wrong, you have to go back and start over again. Ask me how I know that. I was a personal representative twice and a special administrator once. The first time through, I accepted some offers from cash buyers that were not legitimate. I had to go back and start the process over. Don't make the same mistake I did. Save yourself time and money. I didn't make that mistake the second time. Didn't make that mistake the third time. And my families I work with don't make that mistake at all. But anyways, the last option is to list with repairs. This is where you're going to make repairs and you're going to get 100% of the true market value or the after repair value of the home. But in order to get that, you have to make repairs. And this is what most of your traditional agents who don't understand probate are going to recommend, because this is what they've been trained to do. And it's true. In most cases, you are going to gross more money if you make repairs and list the house. However, this is probate. This isn't a typical situation. And in probate, time is money. And if you want to spend another 3 to 6 to 8 months repairing the house to get it ready, you still have holding costs, probate costs, attorney fees, and all these other things that are adding up faster than you can imagine. In addition to that, when you start making the repairs to the house, it completely changes your knowledge of material facts and how you would disclose, which also has a ripple effect and changes how your real estate agent and your attorney are able to use the waiver of liability, which is really important to you and the estate. And so that's not something that is typical in a typical situation, but is really critical in a legal process like probate. And so you want to make sure that if you decide to go down that path, you really know what it takes. Now, I recently was contacted by a family and their attorney transferred the title before they completed probate. So they were going through probate. The attorney transferred the title into the names of all of the beneficiaries, so they were joint owners of the property. And then they were going to fix up the house and sell it outside of the probate process. They just wanted to close probate as quickly as they could. Well, then after it was time for them to sell the house, they realized what the repair costs were going to be, how long it was going to take, how much it was going to cost to keep the house, and the tax implications from selling the house after probate versus selling the house during probate. They didn't work on any of those things with their attorney, and they were very unhappy. At that point, they really didn't have many options I could think of. Other than sell the house, I advised them to talk to a tax accountant, but you can't go back and do it over. So when you are making these decisions, it's important to work with somebody that can help really guide you through these decisions and understand what the impact is going to be on you as personal representative, on the family, on the estate, and then also after probate, there could be impact if you don't do it properly. Now that we've determined our approach for selling, now is when I recommend you clean out the home. And the reason is because depending on which approach you're going to take determines how much time you're going to put into cleaning out the home. Remember I said we want to get through probate with less stress. Well, if you determine your approach for selling and then you clean accordingly, you can save yourself a lot of stress. So for example, if you decided you're going to sell to a cash buyer, then really all you need to do is make sure you remove the items from the property that you want to keep or keep in the family, and you can leave everything else for the cash buyer. If you want to have an estate sale or sell some of the personal items, then you can sell the house to the cash buyer as soon as you complete the sale, the estate sale or the online auction, right? If you're going to go with an iBuyer, you need to get everything out of the house. So we need to do more work to get the house cleaned out. Same thing if we list as is, although sometimes what I will do when the family's listing as is, we will let the buyers determine what they want to keep, and then we will get rid of the remaining items. And so that makes it a lot easier to get the house cleaned out, and the buyers feel really good because they're getting a bonus, or they feel like they're getting a bonus. If you're going to list with repairs, you're going to have to get that house cleaned out and rehabbed and in top condition. So if you determine the approach first, and I know a lot of families, they'll go through the process of cleaning out the entire house, and then they'll decide to sell to a cash buyer. And they could have just saved themselves a lot of time and money by deciding to sell to the cash buyer and then doing very minimal clean out. So this is really important. And again, if you're working with an agent that has all of these options, then it's really important to come up with a plan so you put the least amount of work and have the least amount of stress possible. And for cleaning out the home, I'm going to create another video for you on that, but there is a process for that too. Number one, get everything you want to keep out of the house. Number two, decide if you're going to sell any of the items, whether that be an online auction or an estate sale. Some families like to do it themselves. As far as the healing process, that's great, but it's really stressful. It's just adding to your stress. So decide what you want to do there. After you have sold the items you want to sell, then you take and donate as much as you can. This is important because it's going to help you on your personal taxes and taxes for the estate. And your accountant can talk to you more about that, but just know that by donating, there are going to be some benefits for you. Then after you've had your sale, after you've done your donations, then that's when, if you are needing to get the house cleaned out completely for the iBuyer or the as is, that's when you have the clean out crew come in and remove the remaining items. And by doing the sales first, you are bringing money in. Then by donations, you're getting some tax benefits. And then by doing the clean out crew last, you're saving a lot of money because at that point, there really shouldn't be that much left in the house anyway. So talk to someone who can guide you through the process, determine the approach best for you, and then clean out the home accordingly. It'll save you so much time and so much stress. One more thing here is, this is where we're also starting to bring in offers, right? So we're bringing in offers from those cash buyers. This is, again, I mentioned in phase one, you want to let your family know that you're going to sell, and if they want to buy the house or keep it in the family, they have to get pre-approved. Now that we have offers coming in, and we're getting multiple offers for the court and for the family, I'll talk more about that in a minute, but as those offers are coming in, this is where if someone in the family wants to keep the house or keep it in the family, I give them the opportunity to match the best offer that we have. And this is really important because as the person selling, your fiduciary responsibility is to get the most money you can for the estate. If someone in the family is willing to match the best offer that you have coming in, and you want to keep the house in the family, you can accomplish both. They can buy it based on the price in the best offer, and you still get the amount of money that you wanted to get for selling the house. Works out great. And then if they deduct their portion of the inheritance from the sale of the home, or the money that they're buying it for, they're buying it for even less. And so they're happy, you're happy, as happy as you can be during probate, but everybody's satisfied that they got their way. A lot of times I'll see families lock horns where one person says, no, we're selling it no matter what. Someone else says, no, we want to keep it in the family. You can do both. there's a way to do it, and I just mentioned it, and we could talk more about that in another video. So that is the appointment phase. What other tips do you have? What concerns do you have? Let me know in the comments below.